New Thought Media Network. New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Good evening, and welcome to the Miracle of Prosperity here on the New Thought Media Network. I'm your host, the Reverend Dr. Jim Webb. I serve as the Senior Minister of the Tacoma Metaphysical Chapel in Silver Spring, Maryland, and I'm also the author of a number of prosperity books, including The Soul of Prosperity, 30 P's to Prosperity, Prosperity from A to Z, Forgive Your Way to Prosperity, and one of my favorites, Create Your Self-Manifesting Vision Board. And I'll give you a little secret. I'm also the author of the upcoming book, Manifestation Magic, Spiritual Tools and Techniques for Manifestation. So it's a joy to be here every Sunday night. Every Sunday night, we look at an aspect of prosperity. We may look at many things because prosperity is more than just money and stuff. So we may look at professional prosperity, where, in the words of Florence Scovel Shinn, we have a wonderful job with wonderful pay, where we provide a wonderful service in a wonderful way, and we're professionally fulfilled. We may look at relationship prosperity, where we have cultivated a relationship with ourselves from within that is loving and supportive. So our outer relationships are equally loving and supportive because everything outside of us is a reflection of what goes on within us. And when our external relationships are as loving and supportive as our internal relationships, there is relationship harmony. We may look at logistical prosperity, where the logistics of our lives simply work, where our lives become more easy, more effortless, with fewer hassles, conflicts, and dramas, which I call conflamas. We also may look at spiritual prosperity, where we can find the peace that passes all understanding. And that's what we're going to work with tonight. We're going to work with spiritual prosperity, finding peace. And the way we're going to look at it is by unjudging our way to prosperity. Now, we have someone who's going to help us with this. The producer of my show, Pastor Michael Mangus, who is a wonderful and amazing spiritual teacher. And we're going to discuss unjudging your way to prosperity.
Now, I just got an email from payroll. They're saying that you're having me on too much. And so, when I'm on as talent, then the SAG-AFTRA rules for the union apply.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
No, it's
Ruh-roh.
It's an honor to be on your show this evening. Like always, what a great show. If any of our guests have any kind of questions, please go ahead and put those in the comments and we'll get to them. Okay. Help me here.
Okay.
What is judgment?
Judgment is any preconceived notion or any idea that is not apparent that we project onto a current situation. And let me give you a simple example of a judgment. When someone calls you and their name comes up on caller ID,
okay,
you look at that name, right?
Yeah.
And before you know what they want, before you know anything about the reason that they're calling, you've already formed an idea in your mind. Chances are you have a grievance against them or a preconceived notion of what this is about based on your past experience. And you
now hold it. Now, if someone calls me on the phone while I'm doing a show, now I go ahead and I put them to voicemail, there's no judgment in that. It's just that I'm busy. So so you're saying if someone comes up on my caller ID and or that I see someone and then I have preconceived notions about them. So that is judgment, correct?
Yes, exactly. In A Course in Miracles, the first 7 lessons teach us that when we see something, we're not really seeing it. We're projecting our past miseducation and our past perception onto it. And that is quite common when you see somebody's name on caller ID. You don't know what they want. You don't know what the call is about. But what you do know is what you think of that person. What you do know is how you react when you see their name. What you do know is that your thought about this person is that they are a pita, and you don't want to deal with a pita right now.
Okay.
But we do that with everything we see. So we're not seeing anything for what it is for in this moment. And quite often, our past experiences have been unpleasant, or we have been miseducated. When I see someone wearing a certain type of dress, they're a bad person. When I see someone exhibiting certain behaviors, I think of the behaviors of the group and don't see them as an individual. I just project my preconceived notions, my grievances, my misperceptions, and my miseducation on them.
All right. So how then? Okay. So the New Testament, the teachings of Jesus talk about judge not, yes, ye be judged. Okay. Mm-hmm. But don't we judge right and wrong, good and bad? Don't we go ahead and say in our society, okay, well, this is okay, but this isn't? Isn't there consequences for that? And don't we judge those instances? Go ahead.
Yes. And there's a difference between judgment and discernment.
Okay.
And let's just look at that so we can kind of understand how to use discernment optimally and how to avoid judgment. Judgment often has an electromagnetic charge about it, a sense of anger, a sense of resentment, a sense of fear, a sense of dread. We have attached an emotional charge to a judgment.
Okay.
Whereas discernment is just looking at it a little bit more objectively. This, for example, you might see a mother and a dad fighting, right?
Okay.
Judgment is, oh, it triggers you back to your childhood and your mother and your dad fighting and feeling like a hostage in a hostile situation and all the dysfunction of your childhood, et cetera, et cetera. That's judgment.
All right.
Discernment is, this is an opportunity for love where neither of these people perceive love's presence. You're looking at it from a slightly different perspective. You're looking at it from a more elevated perspective. You're looking at it through God's glasses, through your highest self versus through the wounded ego self.
All right.
And that could be a difference between judgment and discernment.
All right. So if I see someone being beaten up,
Yes.
a woman being beaten up, you mean I don't intervene, or I go ahead and I go into this kind of woo-woo about, judge not, or so what is
it practically?
Well, I think what I'm confused, and again, this is just not me, this is others about this whole thing of judgment, is that, let's say, for example, in our world, there's things that individuals do not find pleasant about our government right now here in the United States. All right. So when I go ahead and I say, I don't like that, isn't that a judgment?
It could be a discernment. I do not enjoy a government that abrogates the rights of its people. I'm one of its people, and I do not enjoy the potential for my rights being abrogated.
Okay.
So what we say, A Course in Miracles teaches us, let me see this differently. Let me see this from a higher perspective, and let me see myself from a higher perspective. So let's just use that one, okay?
Okay.
From my human vulnerable self, as part of populations who may not have always had full rights, and who may still feel the sting of rights being taken away.
Right.
You may still feel vulnerable and still carry pain due to mistreatment. From that human ego body perspective, I judge this thing, such as an oppressive government who is intent on taking rights away, as a terrible threat. There's another way to look at it from a different perspective. And this is the perspective I attain and retain when I go into prayer, when I go into meditation, when I identify with my highest self, my God self, my most loving self, and my most innocent self. When I am in my highest self, and I am seeing this from that highest perspective, I may see things differently. I may see that these government incursions have a larger purpose of causing us to see injustice, so that we realize that we all choose a just world, so we can heal any consciousness of our own victimhood, and we can bring light to the world, so that this call for love that is injustice is answered by the love that we bring as light bearers. Well, that's a different way to see it from God's perspective.
Okay.
But we can't see it from God's perspective when we're wounded and hurt. So we have to go in. We have to go to that place where we know of ourselves as our highest selves. And we have to operate from that perspective to see it from that perspective.
All right. So you understand, and I'll just play the devil's advocate. You understand that sounds like a bunch of new age gobbledygook, woo-woo.
Exactly. It feels like woo-woo till you try it. It feels like woo-woo till you do it. It feels like woo-woo till it works. Okay. One of the key chapters of my book, The Soul of Prosperity, which is the linchpin of prosperity, is the chapter on emotional release, where you go to your safe space, you bring your ego there, you bring your wounds there, you bring your preconceived notions there, you bring your miseducation there, you bring everything unlike God and everything that has triggered you to that safe space that you've developed through your spiritual practice. And it's kind of like putting it through a washing machine. So
Okay.
you allow the light of God to flow to you, through you, and to those places within you that you have found that have been wounded. You found them because they were triggered by these things going on. And
Okay.
when the light of grace, when the light of healing, when the light of compassion, and when the light of love falls on those places and embraces them, heals them, caresses them, regulates them, balances them, then you start feeling better. You start feeling the love that that part of you that didn't think was loved has yearned for. You start aligning more with love. You start healing with love. And you begin to feel yourself as your highest love self, regardless of what is happening in the world. And this is it's not easy, it's not simple, and it's not a one and done. It's a spiritual lifestyle.
All right. So let me just get real clear about judgment. So judgment has an emotional attachment to it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And again, I'm still not really clear about this whole idea of right and wrong, though.
Mm-hmm.
So is right and wrong taken out of this whole idea of judgment? Or is it just our emotional attachment to what is going on?
It's our emotional attachment to what is going on. And let me share with you a story. I hope I can remember it. It's also from my book, The Soul of Prosperity. And it's about a hunter. I'm going to share the one about the Chinese farmer.
Okay.
So there was this Chinese farmer, right? And he had a 16-year-old son. The 16-year-old son was the most precious of his assets because that was his name and his legacy. So the Chinese army was going into battle and they were conscripting every teenager, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he was sad. This is wrong. This is bad. They're going to take my son and send him off to war. And then something happened. Something happened in that these wild horses ran onto his property. And he's like, oh, this is good. This is good. This is good. Because I got all these wild horses. Now I can plow my fields better. This is wonderful. And then one of the wild horses broke his son got on the wild horse, broke his back. He said, oh, this is awful. This is awful. This is awful. But then he said, but this is actually good because now my son can't go to war and he'll heal from this. So in that story, good, bad, better, worse is situational because this farmer couldn't see around the corners that God could. So what we think is bad, God may have a better idea. God may be using it ultimately for the good. For in Matthew 18:22, I believe, all things work together for the good for those who love the Lord. Or in A Course in Miracles, lesson 153, if you only knew that all things, past, present, and to be, are gently planned by the one that would lead you to light.
Okay, so judgment is what, okay, so again, just to get clear for myself and for our guests here. So judgment is when we go ahead and we put our emotional attachment on person, places, things. We judge it good, bad. We don't know,
Right.
but we have an emotional attachment to that. Does that sound like a real good definition here?
Yes, we have an emotional attachment to it. We see it only through the lens of our own experience. We may not see the bigger picture of it, and we may not see how God is using all things for the good.
All right. So how does judgment then, how does it diminish our ability to prosper?
Judgment diminishes our ability to prosper because it takes this amazing thing called our creative energy, and it takes it and it constricts it, because when we're judging, we're not using all of our spiritual capacity for creating our heart's desires. We're using part of it to say, that's a mess. That's bad. We're in anger instead of love, and love creates, anger destroys. So judgment diminishes our creative capacity that way. You know, one of the most important pieces of real estate, I think sometimes of manifestation like Monopoly, right? And one of the most important pieces of real estate, somewhat like the boardwalk on the Monopoly board, is our minds. And when our minds are preoccupied with the past, when our minds are preoccupied with anger, when our minds have grievances, when our minds have resentments, our minds aren't being used to manifest our heart's desires. And when we're in judgment, guess what? We're using our mind, we're misusing our mind, and we're mismanifesting. For that which we are judging, energy flows where attention goes.
Right.
So that which we are misjudging, we're putting our attention there. We're putting our creative energy there. We're putting our oomph there. And what is that doing? It's only inflaming that which we are judging. It's not creating what we desire. It's focusing on what we don't want instead of what we desire instead.
All right. So what is the opposite of that?
The opposite of that is radical acceptance. The opposite of judgment is radical acceptance. Radical acceptance of self, radical acceptance of situations, and radical acceptance of God. And what does radical acceptance look like? Radical acceptance looks like, I am what I am as God created me. Radical acceptance looks like, this situation is what it is, as God created it. I will not judge it. I will just ask God, what is this for? Because I don't know what anything is for. And so radical acceptance is, in a sense, I release this to a dialogue that I have with God. God, I don't know what this is for. One of the most powerful lessons in A Course in Miracles is just that, lesson 25. I don't know what anything is for. So God, why don't you tell me? I don't know what anything is for. So God, give me a hint. Let me know. God, I can't see around corners. You can. What is this for in the larger scheme of things? And that helps us to release our judgments through that radical acceptance.
All right. So how can we then use that then, this opposite then, to prosper? I'm a little unclear about that.
Okay, let's do some examples. Have you ever judged yourself?
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever beat yourself up about something from the past?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, we're human, right? That's what we do. Unfortunately, we were miseducated into believing that was our job, as we were miseducated into believing the world's judgments and criticisms of us. But when we judge ourselves, when we criticize ourselves, we unconsciously begin to withhold from ourselves. We tell ourselves that we are undeserving. We tell ourselves that we are unworthy. And when we judge and criticize ourselves, thus telling ourselves we are unworthy, we block our blessings because we don't believe we deserve them. We don't believe we are eligible for them. And so radical self-acceptance is this. Of course, I've made mistakes. Of course, there have been times when I've been this and that and this and that and this and that. But beyond all of that, I am the holy, beloved child of God, loving, lovable, love-able, innocent, and deserving. So all those layers of judgments and all those ways I have judged myself have nothing to do with who I really am. And when I place myself in the energy of my highest self, which is who I really am, I am in a place of deservingness. I am not in a place of judging myself. I am in a place of wholeness, not in a place of criticizing myself, thinking I'm half this and half that, and therefore undeserving of the fullness of God's good.
Henry Harris this evening, noted author.
Yes.
Now, he has a book here this evening, but I'll just go ahead and I'll start. He says, the opposite of judgment is not merely the absence of criticism. It is the presence of understanding, compassion, and intentional empathy. Judgment often emerges from assumptions, conclusions, or perceptions formed without fully recognizing the complexity of another person's experience, struggles, or circumstances. I agree, Henry. In contrast, understanding requires a willingness to listen beyond the appearances and to acknowledge that every individual carries a unique story shaped by the experience unseen by others. Your comments, Reverend Jim.
Put it back up so we can dissect it moment by moment, okay?
Okay.
Okay. It is not only the absence of criticism, it is compassion and understanding, okay? So we don't criticize ourselves for this, that, or the other. It's understanding this is how I was miseducated. This was how this other person was miseducated. This is how we were taught the world works. We were taught that the world is cruel and we must be crueler in order to survive. These are the judgment, when we make these assumptions about the world that are a result of our miseducation, the assumptions, conclusions, and perceptions, without really realizing, let's call it the bigger picture, the larger dynamics at play, and I'm going to put in the spiritual part of this, the part of this that is God's plan for the ultimate healing of us and the world. So why is this bully put in your path on your job? Because this bully and what you think of this bully on some level is what you thought of God and what you thought of yourself. You thought of yourself as bullyable. You thought God as the ultimate bully, judgmental, sadistic, and hurtful. And so when we understand in that larger picture that this is a cry for love, and that is why we came, we don't judge the situation. We understand it as perfect for God's purpose, beyond the appearance of the moment, and that everybody carries a role they play in everyone's ultimate healing.
Sometimes, though, Jim, that that seems to be very difficult.
Absolutely.
And for me, and again, I've been on the path for quite some time.
Yes.
I mean, there's some times I can be in this mind space,
Yes.
and there's times I'm not.
Absolutely. And the task is to make this the default mind state. It takes practice, practice, practice. One of my favorite ideas is Babe Ruth. Everybody knows that for decades, Babe Ruth led the leagues in home runs. What they don't realize is he also led the league in strikeouts. And each time he struck out, he was gathering more information. Let's call that healing. Each time he struck out, he was getting stronger in his ability to master hitting a ball. Each time he struck out, he was gaining valuable insights. Well, guess what? Every time we find ourselves in another situation, we too are gaining valuable insights. We too are healing at a deeper level. We too are learning to embrace another part of us that is divine by seeing the part of us that forgot of our divinity. So it's good.
All
and
right.
we ultimately get to that place.
All right. I think this is a good time to take a break. And if our guests this evening, that's you who are watching, if you would like to ask a question here, we're talking about unjudging for prosperity. If you'd like to ask a question, please do it in the comments. We'll put as many as we can up. And we will be back with some more practical examples here on Positively Inspiring New Thought Media Network, here on the Miracle of Prosperity. We'll be right back.
What would Louise say? Join us every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Mountain Time. Hosted by Reverend Martine Bernard. Explore the wisdom of Louise Hay. Brought to you by New Thought Media Network. Dive into Louise's teachings. Experience healing and empowerment. Reverend Martine shares insights. Connect with a contemporary audience. Unlock your potential. Transform your life with love. Embrace positivity and healing. Join our vibrant community. Ready to join us? Let's spread love and wisdom together. Please like, share, and subscribe. Only on New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring.
Please help us say thank you to all of our organizational sponsors, including the Hepperlin Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Center for Spiritual Living United Life, Sunshine Cathedral, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Universal Joy Center, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center Ottawa, Om Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. On behalf of New Thought Media Network, thank you, and please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, come be you.
Now you can become an internationally certified workshop leader and life coach in Louise Hay's philosophy. This training was personally created and approved by Louise and is authorized by Hay House. It will change your life and enable you to help others transform theirs. You will join a worldwide community of thousands of workshop leaders and life coaches, all dedicated to offering Louise's work to change hearts and minds. Go to healyourlifetraining.com for all the information.
Well, welcome back to The Miracle of Prosperity here on your New Thought Media Network, along with our host, Reverend Jim Webb, and we've kind of switched things around. We're talking this evening about unjudging your way to prosperity. Now, Jim, you have a special meditation that you can offer individuals for free. Where is that located?
That's located on my YouTube page, and it is now the featured video on my YouTube page. It is called A Meditation for Releasing Judgment. How creative a title! And in it, I received this from Spirit, and in it, and I actually channeled this meditation. But in it is the following points. I am that I am, which is a mantra for radical self-acceptance. The situation is what it is, which is a way to release our judgments of any situation. And all is sanctioned, loved, and supported by God. And what this mantra and the meditation and all the energy and all the healing around it is not about us just sloughing off our own responsibility, but it's about bringing us to the highest perspective where we can bring God in and allow God's plan to evolve without our judgment getting in the way.
Okay, so that's available on, it's revjimwebb, and that's your YouTube page, and that's available right now, correct?
Absolutely. I made it available for free for everyone.
All right. So, I mean, we've talked about a lot about judgment this evening, the past 30 minutes. So what are some practical ways to apply this teaching? How can we, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give you a real loaded one.
Okay.
How do you apply it when you are bothered by what is going on in our government and in some of our government officials?
Okay. Well, the first thing we always know is that everything I see begins and ends with me, both individually and collectively. So, what we are seeing is a collective consciousness playing itself out as a call for love and a call for healing. So, we also know that when we have one finger pointed out as a situation, there are three fingers pointed back at us.
Jim, now don't say that kind of stuff because I don't like that. But go ahead. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Go ahead.
Right. I want to blame them. I want to shame them. It's their fault. They did it. So what we can do is say, what within me is triggered? What within me is triggered is a call for love. I am triggered because when I see this, it's like being 7 years old and seeing kids bullied. I see certain groups bullying other groups, and there's something intrinsically unfair about that. I see cruelty, and that is the opposite of who I came to be, because I came to be love. So there are all kinds of things going on with us. So just like when you're on a plane and they say apply oxygen to yourself before you apply it to somebody else.
Okay.
The first thing we do is we apply love to ourselves, to those places that are bothered. And then we ask, and this is the most important part of any healing process. We ask, why am I bothered? What is the story I am telling myself that bothers me? How old am I? Where was I when I learned this? Because obviously it's miseducation. What part of me needs to feel loved? What part of me needs to feel healed?
Okay.
And once again, in that safe space that I keep talking about, your place of prayer, meditation, union, and communion with the highest power, when you are in that space and you draw that light, that high power, that healing grace and energy in, you apply it directly to those spots. And when those spots feel sufficiently loved, embraced, and aware of themselves as love and loving, then a whole lot of the judgment goes away. And you say, and you've also forged a deeper connection with God. And with that deeper connection with God, you can ask God, God, I don't know what this is for. Give me a hint. Fill me in. What's the ultimate good in this? Because it doesn't look good to me right now. And God will say, you are seeing the deleterious, the negative, the damaging effects of this consciousness of separation, where countries believe they are separate from each other, where groups believe they are separate from each other, where some groups believe they are better and other groups believe they are worse, where some groups fear that they will be disadvantaged by allowing others equality.
Okay.
You see this played out, you see how damaging it is. And ultimately, you will see that this is a lesson for all to learn, that we are all one and we are all equal.
All right. So we talked a little about the I am that I am mantra. So how do we apply that in these situations?
I am, and there's a few other lessons, such as I am as God created me. I am that I am. And I always think of Genesis. On the seventh day, God looked down at everything God created. And everything means everything, and said, this is good. Everything didn't exclude us. Everything didn't exclude our brother. Everything included everything. So I am that I am. I am as God created me. Now, regardless of the mask I wear, regardless of the costume I wear, regardless of the situations that I have experienced that have molded me, shaped me, diminished me, I am still light. I am still love. I am still perfection. I am still holy. I am perfect for God's purpose. So I will not judge myself based on some external measure of what is supposed to be good. Because God looked upon me and said, I am good.
All right. We do have a couple of questions here, if we can. I'm going to take, let me take Henry's first. It says, what parts of myself am I judging that are preventing me from becoming who I am meant to be?
A different way to ask that question is, where do I now feel that I am not attaining who and what I was meant to attain or be? Where do I feel that I am missing, quote, the mark? And when you ask yourself that question, which is a different way of asking the question that you asked, you can then ask yourself, so what is the story I am telling myself about this? And in that story, there is likely to have been a judgment. It may have been a judgment of the world. The world isn't ready for me. It may have been a judgment about certain people. Certain people can't embrace me because I may make them angry because I put a mirror up to their faces and show them their hypocrisy. These could be some of the internal judgments. Oh, they won't like me, or they don't like me because I speak the truth and they can't handle the truth. These are some of the judgments of self that could be embedded in the unconscious mind that causes you to believe that you have not attained that which you want to attain. So look at self-judgment, and then I am as God created me. I still am very holy. I have a holy message from a holy source, and this holy message from a holy source will draw to me those for whom it is meant. Because there are literally millions of souls who have made an agreement with light workers to hear and to allow them to support their healing. Our task is to let our light shine so that the souls who are waiting for us, we signal our readiness. For when we are ready, they are ready.
Well, we want to thank Jane Batch. She says, Reverend Michael, that's what I was going to ask. Great minds think alike.
Yeah.
And she also says, thank you for the big picture and the long view. And I think that that's something that gives many of us, at least for me, peace, taking a look at the long picture, and especially with the economic and political situation that's going on. We have another question here from Isabella. She says, can you suggest daily practices to allow more healing and prosperity into our lives?
Yes. The first daily practice that I would highly recommend is simply sitting and talking with God. Now, there's somebody on the line tonight who says, who am I to talk to God? Who are you not to talk to God? The light of God is within you. The light of God is within everything. What if God were this unified field of love? And when you sat down and you tapped into it, you could tap into the source of all love, all light, all good, all power. For that is, you are a part of it and never apart from it. So when you understand that you are not sitting down and talking to someone on a cloud far away, you are sitting down and activating a sacred part of you that has always been there, and activating its union with the sacred, holy, and divine of all things, and activating its connection with the source of all good. When you look at it that way and you sit down with it, you might ask, what is causing me discontent right now? What is the story behind this thing that is causing me discontent? And where there is a story, there is probably a judgment. You are judging something in that story as bad, as unfortunate, or as disadvantageous to you. And where there is that judgment, you can ask, let me see this differently. Let me see the long view.
All right. Well, we have people sending greetings. Hello there, Kiva. Hello, Deborah. And we are all out of time. Reverend Jim Webb.
Yes.
What are you doing these days? What kind of classes do you have planned for the summer of 2026?
I have a summer mastery series planned for the summer of 2026. We have often talked about how many of our blockages to our good live in the child that still lives within us. And we cannot master our worlds until we master that child that lives within us. That inner child is the amalgamation of the miseducation that we brought to this earth to heal. And that child may still be running our lives and ruining our lives, and we think it's fate.
Right.
So this 8-week class, Spirit Speaks on Healing the Inner Child, gives us visibility. Spirit will look into us and look into the child within us and its miseducation, its misinformation, and Spirit, like a laser, will send healing energy to that part of us that is the inner child. It will give us insights into why the inner child has done what it has done. It'll give us insights into how that inner child has been miseducated, and it will send love to that inner child so that the inner child no longer acts out. So this is an integral part of our mastery, because what we've learned in our current series of classes, Spirit Speaks on Core Issues, is that so many of our core issues originate from our inner child. So if you want to master your world, master the child that may have been running it. And that's one of 2 classes in my summer mastery series.
And the second one is?
The second one is Beyond Channeling, Spiritual Transformation. And I could describe this, but I actually already have. It's about how we can operate from our highest selves. You see, transformation is about transforming from the weak ego human body consciousness, transforming into the highest consciousness possible, where we are one with Spirit, where Spirit moves through us, where we experience ourselves as Spirit, and we experience ourselves in a way that we have access to all the spiritual energy available. So this transformation is a series of practices, a series of experiences, a series of discussions, and a series of healings that facilitate us upping our game to operate from our highest selves more often than not. I love what you said earlier, Pastor Michael. You talked about how sometimes you do and sometimes you don't. Well, this 8-week class will help us to operate out of our highest consciousness by default, instead of operating out of our hurt, scared, human ego consciousness out of default. And through that mastery, we find true happiness, true peace that passes all understanding.
Okay, so we're not kidding here. These classes sell out quickly. If either one of these, or again, it's a series. So if this is calling to you, you need to be calling this phone number, 202-253-6009, to register for the class. These classes at Reverend Jim, and again, I've been with them now for several years now, these sell out quickly.
Let me give you an example, Reverend Michael.
Go ahead.
I got the impetus to do this class last Saturday, a little over a week ago. I started announcing it on Saturday night/Sunday morning. Mm-hmm. It's been available for a week, and I still haven't announced it to the world at large. And it's already over 50% sold out in a week, and it doesn't start for 3 more weeks.
See, we're not kidding when we say this, that these classes are extremely popular. And again, they really meet people where the need is at in the moment. And that's why I think Jim waits for inspiration before he puts these classes together. So again, get a hold of Jim like yesterday, 202-253-6009. If you want to go ahead and email him, Reverend Jim Webb at msn.com. If you again, if this is calling you, you need to call Jim now to be able then to reserve your space in the class. Yes, you can get the recordings for $100, but then you're not in the energy of the class, the actual class. So now, again, it's 50% full, and it has not received, again, the usual advertising. So just wait. Again, this will sell out quickly. So again, if you could right now, 202-253-6009. And if you want to go to his website, that's revjimwebb.com. And could you remind individuals about the free meditation one more time?
Sure. I have a free meditation for you on releasing judgment. It's on my YouTube page, www.youtube.com/@revjimwebb, revjimwebb. So you just go to YouTube. You can either search for me at revjimwebb, or you can just do /@revjimwebb, and that's where you'll find it. And you'll find a whole lot of other good stuff too.
Well, I'm going to let you have the last word this evening.
The last word is judgment hides the grace of God that is waiting to bless you. That person who hurt you and you judge, that situation that frustrated you that you judge, that situation outside of you that you can't control that you judge. It is an opportunity to come into closer union with God. Ask God what it's for. Ask God what it's all about. Ask God why. Because God can see around the corners that you can't, and all things work together ultimately for good. And so judge not. It is ultimately for your healing, your grace, your greatest good. When you are in judgment, you are not in peace. When you release judgment, you can be at peace knowing that God's got it and it's going to be okay. So I want to thank you all for being with us tonight. I want to thank Pastor Michael Mangus for being an amazing facilitator. And thank you all here on the New Thought Media Network. Good night.
Come expand your spiritual journey. Join us for Just the Talk. Sundays, 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Experience Unity Kitchener and Ottawa. Center for Spiritual Living Midtown. Center for Spiritual Living Denver. Unity of Garden Park. New Thought Philadelphia. The Sunshine Cathedral. Unity of Savannah. And the Ohm Center for Spiritual Living. Come unleash your spiritual potential with New Thought Media Network.